All right, now if you have an online business and you want to make a boatload of money, watch this quick video because I'm going to show you exactly how you sign an unlimited amount of clients and get exactly where you want to get to. Now, first of all, let's actually talk about the people that you're selling to, which is your niche. Now, the reason you want to sell to a niche and not just a random assortment of different businesses and different people is a couple reasons. Now, let's walk through them. Now, the first reason you don't want to sell to a bunch of random people, you want to actually sell to a niche. There's really only one reason, at least when it comes to selling, that you should sell to a very specific group of people, and that is different groups of people spend different amounts of time on different platforms. And the reason we want to target a very specific group of people is because they'll all act the same. And if they all act the same, that is a pattern behavior. We can rely on that. We can analyze that. We can get great results from that. Now, let me explain a bit further as to what I actually mean by this. Now, your niche of people will hang around certain platforms with very specific frequencies. So for example, if the people that you work with are, for example, tradespeople, plumbers, electricians, they're probably always on the go, going from site to site. Therefore, the easiest way you can reach these people is with a phone call. Likewise, if your clientele is maybe, for example, an e-commerce brand, those sorts of people probably spend a lot of time on their devices, probably a lot of time on social media, maybe a direct message might be the best way to get hold of them. Maybe email might be the best way to get a hold of them because they're constantly on their devices. You need to think about this, and you need to think about, where are my target clientele spending the most amount of time? Where can I most easily contact them? And that's, again, why you want a niche. But once you figure that out, you essentially are left with two choices when it comes to actually reaching out, talking to them, and selling them on your business. The first option that we have is written. Now, when I say written, I essentially mean when you're first approaching this person, getting into contact with them on behalf of your business, it's in a written form. That means everything from like a direct text message, an email, a direct message on social media, any of these things. And when you go via a written response, this is how you want to do it. This is how you should approach everything from your cold emails to your cold direct messages. Now, the number one rule when it comes to reaching out to a business in written form is always to provide value front up. You need to understand, if you're in a competitive niche, your target business owner, the business owner that you're reaching out to, has probably received dozens of cold calls, email, direct messages, all sorts of things, probably dozens and dozens and dozens over the span of a week. They get reached out to a lot, especially if you're in a major niche. This is why you want to always go about providing value to your potential client, as opposed to just doing what every other, cold messenger does, which is essentially, I run a commission service, be my client, be my client, be my client. And they just essentially spam them and give them no real value. Now, when I say value, you want to essentially provide a almost free taster of your service that can be consumed in a minute's worth of reading. So if this was, for example, one practical tip that you give to your clients, and it's a tip that really works, incorporate it into your copy in some shape or form. If, for example, you're helping, let's go with gyms, and you're helping them improve their sales rate, get their sales rate higher, it could be, hi, this is, the top 3 best tips to improve sales. It could be, don't display your prices, could be make sure people have a set, appointment time, all sorts of things like this that will essentially provide value to your client and will essentially differentiate you from your competition, because that's ultimately what you want to do. And the next big thing that you also need to keep in mind is personalization. And this is, again, the next big thing you need to keep an eye out for, because ultimately, if people are getting reached out to dozens of times over the span of a week, you need to stand out. It needs to be personal. Ultimately, you could just do this with a first name, but a lot of the times that won't even cut it. Ultimately, what I do when I like to send out a written copy, so generally this, for me at least, is in the form of cold email. What I like to do is just, submit their URL of their website to ChatGPT and go, hey, ChatGPT, give me a personalized, positive, nice compliment about this business. And that's a really good tip. Because that is just going to, 1, save you a ton of time, but 2, it's going to be really, really effective. And generally speaking, if you follow these sorts of rules when it comes to written reach outs, you're not going to be able to go wrong. I'd say these are the biggest valuable tips that I can give you when it comes to actually improving your written reach out. But let's actually talk about your spoken reach out, which, again, fairly self-explanatory. It's when you reach out to a business and they're essentially hearing your voice as opposed to reading any copy. So let's actually talk about that now. And this is actually one of the most important things, so definitely listen to this. Because unlike the written approach where you're trying to get the other person's time, or rather attention, so that you can then get their time to sell them, when you're reaching out to someone via, a spoken method, so for this, let's just assume cold calls, and you're going, "Hi John, my name's Oliver. I'm here to sell you something. Can you give me 30 seconds? And assuming they say yes, you've already got their time. You've already got their attention. So in this instance, you don't need to provide any value because they're already somewhat interested in whatever it is you're attempting to sell. So in that instance, you need to get straight to your 30-second pitch, and it needs to be a good pitch as well, because that's ultimately how you stand out. Now, this might sound really complex, but it's actually incredibly simple. And I'm going to give you the exact script I used to cold call right here. So again, you want to start off, you want to essentially say, "Hi, I'm here to say you something. Can I have 30 seconds to pitch you?" If they say yes, awesome. This is how you go about it. You want to essentially talk about 2 to 3 points about sort of your service, what you can actually do for the potential prospect, and how you actually differentiate from your competition. So again, if you're selling digital marketing services to ads, it might be we generate new leads for you, we vet the quality of those leads, and we get them into locked in appointments with you, and we'll even teach you how to sell these leads and how to get even better conversions. That is essentially your 30-second pitch. Dress it up and just make sure it all comes off in 30 seconds. After that, once you've gone through your 2 to 3 points, you then want to say something about along the lines of, "Now, John, I'm not 100% sure whether or not this works for you, but if this is something you're interested, do you mind if I can just have 1 more minute of your time, Don, to just ask another question?" Most often than not, if they have somewhat of an interest in your service, they'll say yes. And that's where you want to go for the next thing, which is essentially stir up a bit of pain, a bit of emotion in the potential client, and get them to essentially, by the end of the call, have this real motivation, this real almost wanting to take action on whatever the problem it is that they have in their business, that they're left with no choice but to book a call with you. Because if you just go through, these steps so far and you say, "Yeah, John, this is what I do, fancy a call with me," a lot of business owners don't want to sacrifice their time. For many, many business owners, most business owners, I'd say, at least the good ones, their time is more valuable than their money. So you need to essentially get really good at this. But the trick is, if you get really good at this, then you'll absolutely kill sales. Because like I said, business owners value their time more than their money. If you can get good at if you can get good at getting a business owner to give you their time, you'll become very good at getting them to give you your money, or getting them to give you their money as well. A little bit of a tongue twister there, but essentially what we do after this is ask painful questions that stir up emotion and ultimately motivation in the client. So some of these, as an example, could be, again, if you're selling digital marketing services, if you're selling new customers, new clients, it could be, what's the number of clients that, you got last month? And if they're not doing very good, they only got 5 clients, something like that. That question is going to stir up a bit of emotion in them. It's going to get them a bit angst, like, I don't even know if I want to tell them the real number. It's pretty low. I'm not happy with it. And when you ask a few more of these questions, another example could be, again, if it's like a churning based business, like a gym, could be, well, how many did you lose last month? And if they, for example, gained 5 members but lost 15, it's a really bad position for any business to be in, right? So if you keep asking these sorts of painful questions, you'll be able to dredge up a bit of emotion, all to the point where after asking a couple of these questions, maybe anywhere from sort of 3 to 5, I'd say, you'll then be able to say, "Look, John, I'm not 100% sure I can help you here, but I genuinely think it's worth, sitting down and having a proper discussion about this a little later on. John, what's your calendar looking like the rest of the week? Is there any time where, you can set half an hour, 45 minutes aside and we can talk about this in a bit more detail, John? How does that sound, John? Would you be open to that, John?" You essentially want to leave it with something like that, and ultimately that is how you will get them to ultimately have an appointment with you. And it should also be said with the written method, after we go through all these steps, the end result should always be the same. You always want to end with an appointment, and essentially the way you want to structure this, a little bit similar to this at the end, is once you provide that value, you say, here's an awesome maybe stat, or here's an awesome tip, I'd love to try and provide a bit more value to you. Fancy a chat. And it's the same sort of end result. You obviously want an appointment here, you want an appointment here, but with Spoken, it's a lot more straight to the point. This is what I can do for you. This is why you should give me your time. It's very linear, if you will. Whereas this process, it's more about constantly trying to provide value. You know, here's a valuable tip. If you want to sacrifice more of your time, I'll give you more valuable tips, more value. And that's really the difference with these two strats. With this strat, you need an incredible amount of value. You need to convey tons and tons and tons of value. With this, ultimately, this step is simpler. This method is easier. It just takes more work. It's more anxiety inducing, and most people don't want to do cold calls, don't want to do face-to-face sales, and as such, they don't do it. That's why they go for the written method. But if you want my opinion, my personal advice, go with the spoken method rather. You'll get way more progress in business because not only is this just a better method, but it will go a long, long way when it comes to actually developing your overall skills. So if you did find this video of value and you wanted my help to improve your business or build your business, link in the description, watch that video, I'd highly recommend. But other than that, if you did find it of value, do chuck your boy a like and a subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.